Directors. It's March 4th, 2021 at 7:31 p.m. Could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd?
Here.
Director Decker?
Here.
Director Harvey?
Here.
Director Lohman?
Here.
Director Slater Carter?
Present.
Hey, let's see. So President's statement, we had a really fine presentation last night from staff. And if you did not have the chance to see that, take a look at our website. I don't know how soon we'll have that posted. Is it already there?
It is posted already.
Great. It's very good. It's rather concise as far as presentations go. There was some really good interaction with members of the public, some really great questions and suggestions. I urge you to watch it and urge you to bring us your feedback. Be really interested to know what kind of questions or comments, suggestions you might have after watching that. With that, let's move to oral comments. Do we have any oral comments for items that are not on the agenda? Seeing none, let's move to the consent agenda. We have 10 items. Does anyone wish to pull anything for consideration? So can I have a motion for the 10 items as listed on the agenda?
So moved.
That motion.
So
I'll second Peter's motion.
I see a motion from Peter, a second from Catherine. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Decker?
Aye.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Lohman?
Yes.
Director Slater Carter?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries 5-0. We have no old business. Let's move to new business. Item 1, review and possible action concerning water bond coalition. Clemens?
Yeah, thank you, Scott. So there is some potential grant funds in the works, in the pipeline. We asked our water engineer to take a look at if this really makes sense to participate, for example, in the water bond coalition that's forming right now and is reaching out to us, trying to find support. And I want to ask Tanya to give us a brief overview of what this means to us and how we should proceed with this. Tanya?
Thank you, Clemens. Dear board members, this is all good news, but there requires a careful consideration by this honorable board. There are 2 bills in question that will be presented to the voters, and I think that's the most important part. November 8th, 2022. So it's going to be next year's election. So they were going to make it to the 2020 election, but obviously for many reasons they couldn't. So one is the Senate Bill 45 that would enact the Wildlife Prevention, Safe Drinking Water, Drought Preparation and Flood Protection Act of 2022. It does require 2/3 vote of each house and the majority of the voters voting for it. That bond is in the amount of proposed 5.5 billion at this point. So obviously that's something the district could totally be eligible for when you read the text of the legislation. Again, it will go to the statewide general election at the November 8, 2022 election. Additionally, the Assembly Bill 1500 would enact these are both add Division 48 to the Public Resources Code, and also relates to safe drinking water, wildfire prevention, drought preparation, flood protection, extreme heat mitigation, and workforce development programs. Basically, except for the extreme heat, and all the items that I just discussed are related to the district. So we think that we have a good chance of getting some grant money, but it's down the road. Both bills are approved, they relate to the Prop 68 that was approved by the voters in 2018, and that is the California Drought, Water Parks, Climate and Coastal Protection and Outdoor Access for All Act. So as you can see, the drought, the parks, the water, drinking water is emphasized in both bills. The climate change, coastal protection, and outdoor access, all of that is very attractive, and the district has a lot of projects that could fall into those categories. So the question is whether or not to join the coalition. The coalition was formed by various entities who are supporting the bills. This requires, of course, the legal counsel needs to weigh in and advise you. I'm just here to as a messenger to see this is available. The whether or not the district will benefit from participating in the coalition, there's no cost, but the issue is the board would have to pass a resolution supporting the coalition, supporting the bills. They're still in flux. They're still being reviewed and written. So I think it behoves this board to consider and for Christine to issue a legal opinion. So that would require a resolution to support and then participate in the meetings and outreach and lobbying and so on and so forth. However, I understand it is our understanding that the current there will be a conference call, a Zoom call on March 8th, and the general manager can participate without the board deciding to join the coalition. So that's kind of the gist of it. Again, we're talking $10 billion for the state of California. Of course, you do know that when we're talking such large sums, they usually go to where most people live in metropolitan areas. We haven't in the past participated in the Prop 50 grant funding, where the district got very, very little out of it when we were forced into a regional corporation. So I'm a bit worried about joining any coalitions and being forced into a situation where we are in a group with larger or very large water agencies. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. So again, it's up for your consideration, and the legal opinion is important.
Thank you, Tanya. With that, I'm going to hand it back to the board.
Scott, quick question.
Rick,
You said, I believe there were two bills. The first one, SB 45. What was the second bill, the actual numbers?
AB 1500.
AB 1500. Thank you.
and Catherine?
Yes, this at the last SAM board meeting was added at the end of the meeting based on conversation with Debbie Ruddick, who is working professionally with this coalition. She mentioned it, and so at the end of the meeting with a vote, unanimous vote of the SAM board, we added joining the coalition to our agenda unanimously. And the reason was to be involved up front so we could hear what's going on. We decided that these were very important bills for many of the things we're doing. And it will help us get in, as Sam, wearing the Sam hat, it will help us if we need grants to know what the underlying rationale was and what is going on with it. I asked to have this on our agenda for Montara to participate in it, because it's always useful to understand the process and where they're going with this kind of thing. When I first got on the board, we weren't very involved in much of what was going on outside our little district, and our district has benefited from the board members expanding their outreach and their involvement to other levels of government. I don't, since this doesn't have a cost except staff time, or even a board member could listen to the conversations and then take notes, or at least we would be able to lobby for the smaller districts on this coalition, instead of just having the big guys pitching for themselves, which I think is typically what happens. I know that's why I got involved with CSDA, and I think that's why CSDA has been as successful as it has over the past 20 years, because they have taken up advocating for the little guy and the importance of the little guy. So I would urge us to vote on it so that we can have our name on a list. I don't know, when they're looking at grants, if they look at the list to see, oh, were these people involved or not? No, we'll put them at the bottom of the pile. Oh yes, they were. Okay, we'll put them in the probable pile. That's just a guess of mine, of course, but I would just argue in favor of us doing this. And I don't think we need an attorney's opinion. I'm sorry to disagree with you, Tanya. Usually I can find no fault with anything you say, but on this one, I think we don't need an attorney to join a little club.
Let me ask a question. If we join, is there anything to prevent us from withdrawing from the organization at some later date?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Is there any financial commitment to joining?
Not apparent.
So what it would cost us is our overhead of our time. And if we don't like it, we can walk away from it. If that's the case, I'm curious, Christine, do you have anything to offer? If you don't have any particular comment, if you don't see any risk.
Thank you, Director Boyd. As to your particular questions, I don't know the answers. I would rely on Tanya, and as long as the district, I don't see any legal reason why the district wouldn't have the authority to join the group.
Okay. Rick, you had a question?
Yes, except for the stupid pop-up on my system here. I was just going to say, I support Catherine's comments. I would certainly, if GMs can attend this meeting on March 8th, I would encourage Clemens to do so. Can't help but gain more knowledge out of that. So just waiting till the next meeting. I mean, I'm for approving it now, but Clemens can bring back more information and we will learn more over the years. And I don't see how they could possibly stop us from just walking away at some point. But I like the idea of putting in a bid for smaller districts. That always seems to be our problem at the state level and the county level and everything else. So
let me ask Clemens, is there a recommended action that you have?
Not tonight. I'm happy to attend the board meeting. I mean, this is really for information. Excuse me, the meeting on the 8th, the phone call. And I think that would be my only recommendation, that we participate in this and, continue watching and potentially bring it back to the board to take action at a next meeting, at a subsequent meeting.
Tanya, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing is the reason I thought we need legal counsel is the resolution needs to be drafted properly, and Christine needs to be involved in that, and
Okay.
for the official joining. That's all.
I believe the resolution is on the website for the coalition. That's where we got that one for Sam. And Jeremy Youngrice said he knew of the coalition and he thought it was a good idea.
Well, I would trust that if we move to a resolution, that staff will do the usual thing to make sure it's sound and informed. Jim, did you have anything?
No.
Peter?
No objection, no.
Well, thank you for bringing us this information. It sounds like we have some interest from the board to check this out and possibly join. So Clemens, will look forward to your report after checking it out a little bit.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item 2, new business review and possible action concerning CSDA application for certificate of district of distinction.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So this is a suggestion from Director Lohman. The California Special Districts Association has various levels of certificates for special districts. And the district of distinction is, I'm going to call it the step 2 in the certifications for special districts. What they're really looking for is transparency, budget preparation, things like such. And I think it is a great idea to set the goal to become a district of distinction. We looked actually at becoming a district of transparency some time ago and have everything prepared to file the application. And to become a district of distinction, we have to be also a district of transparency. So we have to take the first step. Once again, some of the things that we have to do for both of these certificates are similar. What has been missing for the district of transparency so far is that we all get on the same page at the same time to properly get trained on our AB 1234, that is the ethics training, and the AB 1825, that is sexual harassment training.
Oh, by the way, I looked that up on the website. The sexual harassment training is not on the website. It doesn't show the certificates like it does for the other.
That's right. There's a posting requirement for the AB 1234, but we can send it out to each director, what they actually have to, what courses they have to take. I think, Peter, you're the only one that currently has everything.
Both of them. Yeah.
You got both of them active. So we can send that out to the directors. And so our first step is to for us to take this training so that we can then review once more if there are any changes to the requirements since we prepare to become a district of transparency, and then take that first step. And once we have the district of transparency squared away, then we would start thinking about the district of distinction certification. And really the requirements there are that we have clean audits, and we do. So they're going to review three past audits, 3 most recent audits. They're going to review our policy handbook as well, our budgets, and there's a committee that makes a decision ultimately then if this meets their expectations. And then there's some further training that is required for the board and the manager. And so we have to share it as the attachment. There's a number of modules, governance foundation, community outreach, the board's role in finance, the board's role in HR, or one training option that I can only recommend because it's a wonderful conference is the Special District Leadership Academy Conference this September. Hopefully that will be an in-person conference that's up in South Lake Tahoe. Or another training opportunity would be actually this March, and that's board member best practices. So board members have to be involved, have to take steps, and have to train. Again, I think it's important to first get the transparency certificate. We can send that out tomorrow. Everybody can just log on, spend a couple of hours, get their certificates up to date, and we should be able to file the application for this certificate. And I think then we can bring this back as a success story and tackle the second step, which is the district of distinction.
Good, let's do it.
Rick?
Yeah, I pressed this just a little bit because I go to the chapter meetings and everybody there, whenever they get certified, they all cheer and stand up and say, look how great we are, which is really good. And I would like to be one of those. This first step that Clemens mentions is the transparency. That's pretty straightforward. As part of that, I've seen on other people's websites, when they say board of directors, there's the proverbial picture with a paragraph of what that person has done, and underneath are links to both of the certificates, the ethics and the sexual harassment, so people can click on it and see that you are totally certified and good.
Those are state requirements, aren't they?
I'm not sure about the posting on the website, but I just want to make sure that's part of where we're headed this time. Everybody's seen those courses, and you just got to sit there and answer the questions and just move on. It's takes some time, but they're not like hard. And I just think that's a big thing. We model ourselves as transparent to the community. That's almost our logo. And I just want to take these extra little steps and make it official so everybody knows it. And then, as Clemens said, then we can move on. The other one, it doesn't require, I don't think, all board members to take X number of classes, but we can talk about that later. I think just some classes have to be taken. And a lot of us are retired, and maybe that won't be too hard of an onus on us. But I'm 100% in favor of taking step one, which is go for the transparency and get all our training up to date, which we have to do anyway. So
It
so
may be that these certificates only have a limited validity. They're only valid for 2 years. I think you have to repeat them again after 2 years.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So anyway, so when we have new board members, that keeps the certificates up to date.
Yes.
At
Okay.
least for the new board members. Yes.
Yeah, well,
For the new
Yep.
board member. Yeah.
I think we need to look up the official title. I do not think sexual harassment training is the politically approved nomenclature. Christopher, do you know what it is?
Yes, Madam Director, it's the California Compliant Harassment and Discrimination Prevention Training.
Yeah, I think sexual harassment training, it just leaves an interesting image.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've laughed about it for years because it was the legislature who forced that training on board members here. And guess who is in the press more often than not for that? Our state legislator members. So I think they changed the name.
Do we need a vote on this, or is it just a process to get going?
I think we can just bring this back to the board once we can work in the background with the individual directors to get their certificates. And once we have it all squared away, again, there may be some policy updates. Last we looked at the transparency requirements and prepared for this was about 2 years ago. There may be some changes to that list. So we have to address those and keep the board informed at each meeting where this process is.
Well, I would hope that by the next meeting, we could at least have the part where everybody's got the training nailed down, and then we can put that on the website and then discuss at the next meeting if we need a official statement to then go apply to the state for this certification or this name.
Sounds very doable to me, yes.
I do so many of these trainings at work. I lose track of which ones I haven't done yet because I've already done the same thing on one side or the other.
Yep.
Catherine, the reason that I mentioned the sexual harassment prevention training is that what it says on the certificate that I had to sign.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but I was pleased to see they had changed the name because California is enough of a laughing stock as it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Could be Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, well, enjoy wearing your
York
two
is worse.
masks. We're taking up where Texas dropped off, so we get all their extra masks. Because our
You,
governor's signing that order soon.
you got me as a leftover Texas
Yep.
refugee, so happy to be here. All right, well, it sounds like we've got general consensus amongst the board members that this is the direction we want to go. So Clemens, thank you for offering to help us figure out which ones we still need to do. Point us in the right direction. Let's get started on closing that gap. Let's then go on to,
I'm gonna say goodbye.
thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Talk to you later.
Let's move to item 3, review and possible action to amend salary schedule and approve adjustment to the general manager's compensation.
Okay. So I'm realizing, Christopher, there was a document that was supposed to get to Scott, and I'm not sure, I didn't transfer it to you, Scott. So I don't know if Christopher got it to you.
Is that, Christopher, is that the one that you had to sign online, or is that a different document?
But
No, it's a script for the board chair to read aloud.
Is that something you can beam over to me? Or
I'm just looking for it.
wow, there's a lot of mail in here. I don't see anything like that. And I apologize, Clemens. I said I was going to come in to do some signing today, and I just totally blanked. I wish I could tell you that I was busy doing training, but I simply blanked. But
Okay.
my plan is to come in first thing in the morning to do that.
All right.
Christopher, do you think you can get that sent over?
Yes, in
And
fact, I might be able to put it on the screen if that is helpful.
If you think that's appropriate, I think that's fine.
Okay.
That way it's recorded.
Do you mind if allowing me to? Oh, let me see.
You should be able to share screen.
Okay. Thank you. And Chair
Okay,
Boyd, if you don't
thanks.
mind, we would welcome your lovely voice to read aloud what's on the screen here.
Okay. In accordance with the Government Code Section 54953C3, I'm providing an oral summary of the recommended action. The item before the board tonight is to amend the salary schedule and approve adjustment to the general manager's compensation. The recommended action is to amend the general manager's annual salary and set the new salary at $220,278 effective January 1st, 2021. The total annual salary increase is $4,322 from the prior year's salary. This action item will also authorize a one-time payment of $6,000 to the general manager pursuant to Section 8 of the employment contract and a one-time cash payment of $15,000 in recognition of the general manager's continued performance. Additional information, including a showing of payments in the form of fringe benefits, are set forth in the agenda report and resolution associated with this agenda item. Copies of the amended agenda report and related documents have been distributed to all board members and are also available for members of the public and will be incorporated into the minutes of tonight's meeting. To orally summarize, additional compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits to the general manager also include PAR's contribution in the amount of $8,977, a 457 retirement plan contribution in the amount of $15,420, health coverage, including dental, vision, and life in the amount of $29,455, and the wellness program in the amount of $240. Are there any questions from the board or members of the public regarding this item before the board considers the item before us?
Nope.
I see none. Any comments or questions from members of the board?
No.
I don't
Nothing
see any.
additional.
I would just like to say last year was an extraordinarily difficult year, and the board is very pleased to be working with Clemens as our general manager. We had not one, not two, but a number of extraordinary challenges last year. And here we are a year into this thing, having faced and dealt with all of these things. And Clemens makes an excellent member of the team, and we're very glad to have him. With that, do we have a recommended action? We have a resolution that is in the board packet. Does anyone care to make a motion?
So moved.
Make the motion to accept the resolution.
I'm going to give the motion to Catherine. Peter, do I take that as a second?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion from Catherine, a second from Peter for the resolution next in order as shown in the agenda packet. Tracy, can we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Agreed.
Thank you. That motion carries 5-0. This district is a handful in a regular year. We know this year is going to be likewise challenging, so everybody buckle up. All right, with that, we have.
Quick note, Tracy, for the minutes, when I say agreed or any other affirmation, just put down yes.
Okay.
That's just that there's so many other words in the world.
All right, moving to reports. Anything on Sam?
Yes. Mostly the finances is what I'm going to concentrate on. We're making progress on the budget. We are going to be approving the most recent audit on Monday at the SAM board meeting. Apparently, Keishan found some money, and I think it was budget money as opposed to cash money, but I didn't talk to him too much about it. And he will be giving a refund, they've been working on the budget, to each of the districts. Montara is going to be getting about 230,000, Granada 240 or 50, and Half Moon Bay 560,000 refund from infrastructure projects that didn't get spent last year. And on the agenda, they're going to ask if we want to get the cash money back, or or a credit, something like that, or if we would like to see it go into an infrastructure fund reserved for SAM. I just found out about it today. Actually, Keishan just found out about it yesterday, I guess, while they were working on the pre-budget discussions. So that's something that I would like the board to give direction on for Rick and I. And the other is that we did get our audit. It's improved over each audit gets better over the years. And this is the last year we'll be able to have Cropper as our auditor. So we're going to have to be looking for a new auditor. We will be on our 6th year with Cropper. So that's the big news that's going on at SAM right now. Other than the fact, if you drive past Burnham Strip and you see the sets of tanks going in, Tim Costello has been posting pictures on Nextdoor. There's going to be an article in the review on Nextdoor. Sarah Wright is interviewing me, Barbara Dye, and Keishan. And so what I told her was the idea came out of MWSD for all of this because we wanted a peer review. And this was much less expensive than a parallel force main, which would have cost as much as the plant expansion had cost. And then the operating costs were high. So that's really all that's going on at SAM. Oh, we just signed a employment agreement with Keishan, and he got a 2-year contract, which I think is the longest contract a manager has been offered that I'm aware of. We have a 3-year contract with our attorney and only a 1-year contract with our general manager. It's nice to have continuity, but the plant runs so much, everything runs better when we've got a good manager with continuity.
Catherine, did we talk about, I'm confused on dates now. Have we reported on the CIP being passed for that 1 year under protest?
Did, yes.
Yeah, I
We
think
do that
so.
already? Okay. Forget me.
I have a question. Did Cropper give us a reason as to why they didn't want to be the auditor anymore?
No, it's a legal requirement that they have to be changed at the end of 6 years.
Okay.
It's to keep, it's for transparency, to be real honest. You want new people looking at your audits every few years just so that somebody doesn't get real comfortable and start giving you good audits.
Six,
How
6
many,
years.
and
6
how
years
many
is really
years
long.
does MWSD have their auditor?
Not that long. How long is it, Clemens?
Oh, we have our auditors since quite some time. They have changed names though. So
Do it.
That's clever.
yes, they've
Are-
changed
are we-
names and
Are we
principles.
working with the same individual or are they rotating individuals?
No, the individuals have also changed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what the law says is you can use the same firm as long as you get a different partner doing it.
Jim, you got a
Proper,
question or comment?
Proper is the only one in his firm who has worked with Sam, and the only one available to do it.
Is that Jim?
Yeah, thank you, Scott. My question is, what's the timeline for us making a decision on whether we want those funds to be transferred to structural bank for the plant, or whether to be given back to us? At what point do we make that decision?
Well, I'd like a straw poll tonight. I haven't read the staff report. I can't give you much more information than that. It will probably be out tomorrow. My personal opinion is instead of transferring dollars around, I would like to see Sam go back to having an infrastructure reserve to be able to fix problems as they come up instead of having to bounce around the district budgets as needed.
Rick?
My concern, I think, an infrastructure fund is fine, but I would only accept that if all 3 agencies contributed.
Oh yeah, no, I don't,
I wouldn't do
think
it if
that-
Half Moon Bay's not contributing.
Oh no, if all 3, my opinion is like yours. And if Montara gets the money back, my opinion is we should put it in our own SAM infrastructure fund so that we don't have to invade our general budget if something else breaks at SAM and we get hit with a high cost of resolution.
I like that.
Oh, I'm inclined in your direction, Catherine. Peter, Jim, any thoughts?
Same.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I'm inclined to put it back in the reserves, the CIP reserves, whether it be at SAM or whether it be at MWSD.
That's why we get along so well, guys. We're all smart.
Yeah, I don't know. Jim's about to be contrary. Go for it, Jim.
No, I agree that we should. I think that we should. Catherine, you're talking about a long-term issue with developing our own plant. So for this money, I think, for the show good faith and for the, because it is not a long-term issue. I think we should put it back into the SAM CIP reserve.
Well, that's good. And I will see what the rest of, what the vote is on Monday on that.
If I may, I would like to comment as well. I think it's a great idea that Sam, that there is some extra money set aside for any emergencies, for example, because we ran into these situations in the past, and we were asked to come up with additional funds pretty much on the spot.
That's right.
I do want to caution to keep the funds at SAM, because what we've seen in similar situations was that projects were approved at SAM level without any influence of the member agencies, without any approval of those funds being used in that fashion from the member agency level. So just letting you guys know what I think about this.
Well, I think, Christine, is there a way to make it so that even if Sam kept that money, we would have it at least inform the member agencies and get their opinion?
You know, that's a really good question, Director Slater Carter. And it was exactly along the lines, I'm sort of rewinding the JPA in my mind. I don't know right now, but in light of, I would think there would be a way. Obviously, the board cannot make any decisions one way or the other right now. So I would recommend, when the board's ready, when Sam has made a decision, that this come back as an action item. And I'll provide a recommendation on what that should look like.
Maybe you and Jeremy Youngrice could have a quick conversation on that, because this will be on the agenda on Monday. And maybe you could express that concern so he could answer the question for the board. I remember well before I was on SAM, and you'll probably remember this, Rick, because I think you were on SAM with Leonard.
I'm older than you are.
One of the managers of SAM was spending the money on things that without, as Clement said, without checking with the member agencies. And there was some thought that it was inappropriately spent. I don't know about that, but that was why the SAM reserve was liquidated. The board took a vote and said, no, we're not going to have a reserve. We have to come back to the agencies every time we have to spend money on something. In my humble opinion, I think informing the agencies is good, but there are so many things that have to be improved, repaired, upgraded at SAM. And having the funds available would, in my opinion, help. And the other reason I'm suggesting it is because Keishan is such an ethical person. And he was offered, you can do something, and I know, we were talking about salary and benefits, and we said, well, for the general manager, we can do it this way, and the staff, because they're lower ranking, won't get this kind of benefit. And Keishan said, no, I'm just going to take what the staff gets. And so I just think it is a large part of it is my suggestion is due to Keishan's leadership.
Rick?
A couple expanding thoughts. On Monday, because Half Moon Bay has never been one to let money sit at SAM. They've been instrumental in destroying all reserves and things like that. So I can say plan A, if Half Moon Bay says no, then we request a refund of our money, and then we do with it here as described. if Half Moon Bay says yes, then we say, yes, keep it in a reserve at SAM. My concern is I would want to insist on the requirement that that be in a special reserve and all districts be approved before, because on the big pipeline project we just wrapped up, Half Moon Bay went directly to Kishin and said, I demand that you spend $60,000 on this biologist.
I
And
forgot about that.
$60,000, and he was basically forced to do it. And we can discuss that later, but I don't want him to be able to be pressured or spend, dribble the money away in little $10,000 increments. So I don't think it's going to be, if there's an emergency, it's an emergency, but just in general, let them propose spending the reserve at certain things, and then it comes back to us and we all approve it, and then it goes back. So.
Okay.
All right.
I think those are excellent
hang
points,
on.
Rick. Thank you.
Hang on, Jim's got the floor.
I agree with you, Rick, on how the money should be held at SAM, but I would suggest that whether Half Moon Bay says yes or no, it's not a huge investment or amount of money. But I think whether Half Moon Bay says yes or no, that we should go ahead and put the money in the SAM CIP reserve. I think it's a show for a lot of reasons of good faith, and I think it's the right thing to do. And I think that we should ignore SAM. Half Moon Bay will hopefully say yes, but even if they say no, I think we should go ahead and put it in the SAM reserves.
I tell you what, Rick and I will make that argument as strongly as we can and see where it goes.
Peter had a comment.
Yeah,
Peter.
I read on the documents that I got today, the financials from SAM that were included in their message, their announcement for the agenda. I read that even though the net position has increased and the numbers look better than last year, still they're running a net operating loss of 1.22 million for the fiscal year, whereas the year before they lost 1.66 million. So definitely they are not in a situation yet that they can do without this money. They need all the money they can put their hands on in order to remain financially viable.
I saw Christine's hand.
Thank you, Director Boyd. I'm just looking through the JPA, and there is a provision that provides that any surplus money shall be returned to the member agencies in proportion to the funds. So I would say that money is ours, and that we have the right to designate or control what is done with it, including what you're just discussing now, put it back to SAM. So anyway, something I could definitely develop a little more, but it just, at this point, that money is ours. Montara.
I would appreciate then if you would give Jeremy Youngrice a call tomorrow, and he can talk to Keishan about this, because I'm not sure Keishan, I had forgotten about that part.
Rick, you had your hand up.
Yeah, in spite of that, my comment is still, if this money is sitting there and it's then spent, and if Half Moon Bay does not have their share in the pot, they've protested every payment for about the last 3 years. They would just say, well, that's fine. You guys spend your money. That's what they've been saying. We didn't approve that. So you and Granada pay for all of that with your money. That's my concern.
That is the gist of the lawsuit.
Yeah, that's basically what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure they will. I mean, I'm just really against leaving money there that could be spent without Half Moon Bay doing there, and then we just pick up the whole bill. And I don't think anybody wants to support that. So,
well,
we'll have to see what happens there. So,
well, I think at the last Rick, at the last moment, the money could be, before Half Moon Bay grabs it and spends it for us, it could be taken back at the last minute.
Well, let's just see what happens. I think if it all goes down as I think it will, I think we will have that 200 and some $1,000 that we should put in a special reserve fund for just to help us balance the demands of Sam. And
Yeah.
I would
Oh.
hope Kimberly and Michelle and Greg will attend the Sam board meeting.
Let me add a comment or two. Catherine, I'm glad you mentioned the increased degree of trust that Keishan is establishing. I really appreciate that we're in that situation. Rick, I'm very sympathetic to the cautions you lay out.
Mhm.
I'm okay seeing how this plays out. It sounds like we've got a lot of good thoughts on the table, and I'm interested to see what our SAM reps do moving forward. But I think we've heard a variety of really good concerns, and I don't think it's super clear that one way is vastly superior to the other. But I do want us, at the end of the day, I hope that what we choose is something that gives us enough control that Half Moon Bay can't cause it to be willy-nilly spent.
Okay.
Well, and I will add, and this is for Greg and Kimberly and Michelle, that given the lawsuit, I trust Sam, but Half Moon Bay we have a contract, the JPA, that said, that defined how the monies that Sam took in would be spent. And now Half Moon Bay, by their actions in public in at Sam, is saying, well, unless it involves any of the anything that if there's any SAM work that has to be done in the city sanitary district, which does not include Frenchman's Creek nor Miramar, which is in the city, but it's in the Granada Sanitary District, we will pay our proposed share of that. But if it's outside the city sanitary district, then that's Granada and Montara's problem. And that's what their lawsuit is about, is they don't want to pay for anything outside of their own sanitary district. You can go to the court and you can read their filing. And so given that, we'll see what the discussion is, but my guess is it will probably come back to rest in our own reserves.
Okay, let's move on to anything else for Sam. Not hearing anything. Let's go to the CSDA report.
We haven't had a chapter meeting recently, so nothing to report on the CSDA chapter. I do have a LAFCO report there whenever we get to that.
Okay, well, that's next.
Okay, LAFCO, we had this won't be long. It's just we had a legislative committee meeting, which is, they presented a list of about 28 bills, I think they said, which are being watched by CSDA. There's nothing of what I would call an immediate That's pretty much the biggies. So these are all on what they call watch status, which means they've just been introduced this year. More will come, but CSDA it's at the state level is not scared of any of them. So they're basically just in watch mode, not support or deny, we'll just keep watching.
All right, thank you. Attorney's report,
No report.
director's reports. I don't see any eager faces. General manager's report.
No report.
Okay, anything that we want to capture for future agendas?
Yeah, what, any Clemens, any light on the mountaintop?
You know, we haven't heard in recent time, but I've been checking on a regular basis, Jim, and I don't see any movement up there. So everything is in the state that it was left 2 months ago.
Is it time for another hike to the top?
Oh, always time for another hike. Let's do it.
It's always time for another hike, Jim. So whenever you are ready, let's go.
I'll watch the slideshow.
All right. We do have a couple of items for closed session. One about the lawsuit, Half Moon Bay suing the coast side, and one about anticipated litigation. And when we're done with that, we'll report out any action taken in closed session. So for now, let's recess until how about 8:35, and we'll reconvene in closed session at that time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Thanks to the locals.